Hello. We are here to talk about software-defined networking and how it gets along with Ethernet fabrics. And so the main idea is that you can certainly abstract complexity. You might be able to abstract cost and some other things we're going to talk about, but you can't abstract quality. You can't get away from the ingredients that you're starting with. And so it's very much like you have Earth, right? And let's say you have the United States, and where was someplace you were recently?
When I was vacationing in Molokai, for instance.
Okay,
be a good example.
Exactly right. So you're sitting there, right, and you have your cell phone, and you're going to some website, right? So like you check news or something, right? And the whole idea is that whether you are in Molokai or whether you are in the Bay Area, you're using the same protocols, right? You're using HTTP, you're using TCP/IP, you're using some sort of 3G type network. And so basically all the software, all the abstraction that happens between your cell phone and the website is very akin to what software-defined networking can provide. In that essentially what you have is when you go to that website from here, you get
it's great.
lovely experience,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And what was it like in Molokai?
Very shady.
Right.
Depending on where I was. Yeah.
Depending on where you are, right? Inconsistent, right?
Very inconsistent.
You have a totally unreliable situation. So the idea is that you, once again, don't have this kind of the same undercarriage, right? The same kind of layer. When you start looking at software-defined networking with standard networks, you have the same sort of environment in that you have, your guy, and he's trying to get to a location, right? So he's crossing, some combination.
Right, some type of infrastructure.
Some type of infrastructure, right? And this has been working well for all of us for a long time, right? But the challenge is that much like this, even though you may be building this software-defined abstracted overlay on top of this, you still have whatever limitations exist because of your environment, right?
Right. So this would be the SDN layer, some type of overlay, multi-point overlay,
exactly.
and here's your infrastructure.
Over your sort of classic network, right? And so, even if you were to go in and basically, try to create these multiple paths for this environment has certain characteristics to it, right? It's running spanning tree, right? So you have some combination of paths that are basically blocked, right? So they're not used, right? You have something that's very rigid, right? So it has a sort of brittle sort of nature to it, right? And so what happens is that if a link goes down and you want to fix it before he notices, you're talking about sending out, humans, perhaps groups of humans, right, to kind of mediate this environment. When you start looking at fabrics, what you have is you have, the same sort of person trying to talk to some other person, right? And essentially, now what you have is, instead of having this sort of rigid, brittle, complex, difficult to manage sort of environment, you have this, very sort of fluid, dynamic, multi-hop, multi-point, self-healing, automated sort of environment. So now not only do you have multiple paths for this data to actually take as it's getting from here to there. Not only do you have all your paths available to you because you're not blocking on anything, but you can take advantage of things like new routing protocols. You can take advantage of things like ECMP. You can take advantage of things like Brocade trunking. And so now, if capacity becomes a problem, right? Instead of having to, bring out a bunch of people, you're still going to have to send out someone, but essentially all they have to do is
plug in a cable.
Plug in the cable, right? So they're really just saying, okay, we're going to add a cable. Maybe we're going to add another cable. And now they don't actually have to log into the box to actually do anything because
the fabric basically builds additional capacity automatically.
And so by having this kind of intelligent, multipath, nimble sort of fabric, what you have is you have a much more fluid, dynamic layer underneath so that these people under here can essentially maintain the illusion that this software-defined network layer on top of it is this perfect, glossy, pretty thing, right? Because they have to be able to react very quickly and solve problems very fast, and humans can only do so much so quickly.
Right. And so regardless of where he is in the fabric, he still believes he's getting the Silicon Valley
exactly, right?
experience.
So it's about matching the agility and nimbleness of the software-defined network with the agility and nimbleness of the network underneath, which is what Ethernet fabrics will provide. I mean, it's very akin to what you saw with phone systems, in that we've been plugging in phone systems and all sorts of rotary dial things, right? But in '53, Charles Kloss did this research. In '65 was when basically you started seeing the first switched fabrics released in phone systems, right? Since then, call quality has continued to improve. Calls haven't changed, right? It's not the function of them haven't changed, but what's underneath that system has become more and more stable, more and more nimble, more and more agile.
Right. So this was the pre-fabric phone system, and here's the phone system of from 65 onward.
And so it's not to say that SDN can't operate without a fabric. SDN will operate without a fabric. It's not to say that fabrics can't operate well without SDN. But if you're going to be doing SDN, if you're going to be creating overlays and tunnels and so forth, building over a fabric is going to provide you that matched, apples to apples, nimble, agility, intelligent, fluid sort of environment for your...
The less complex, less brittle, self-healing, self-trunking.
Absolutely. So I mean, essentially you're matching one-to-one, and so you're providing that much more fluid, happy sort of medium, so that your little customer can stay...
He's happy wherever he goes in the fabric.
He's happy wherever he goes in the fabric. Exactly. Thank you much.